In this video you'll learn how to create an accurate, complex selection of hair using the Select and Mask Taskspace. Here we've got a document open with two layers in. On top we've got a model taken against a white background in a studio. Now the background layer is an evening shot taken outside, and I'd like to be able to composite them together. Now to do this I need a good accurate selection of the model to place her onto the background. Now areas like this have a lot of contrast in Photoshop, so it will have no problems finding and selecting it. We set what is called a radius in pixels, and Photoshop will search within that radius to find the edge. With a high contrast edge like this, it's a small radius of say 2 pixels. Will be good enough for Photoshop to be able to find that edge in between. But here in the hair, a 2 pixel radius would cut off all the hair outside the 2 pixel radius, which would leave a pretty ratty selection. Now Select and Mask allows us to create a different radius for different parts of the image to include high frequency detail like the hair. Okay, well let's make a start. First we need to enter an initial selection before we can enter Select and Mask. Now the best way to do this is to click the Select Subject button. Now what button, I hear you ask? Now both buttons only become visible when you have a tone selection tool active. So if we click up here on the quick selection tool, you'll see these two buttons now become visible. Now if we click the quick selection tool, this is going to give us an initial selection. Now it's going to give us an initial selection on layer 1, which has got the model on. So I'll just click on that and it'll whir away for a second and then come back with a selection. And it's made a pretty good selection, or what looks like it. Round these high contrast edges here, it looks pretty good. Round the hair, looks a little bit less good. Fear not, this is where Select and Mask comes into the rescue. Now we can click the Select and Mask button. And what this will do is open up the Select and Mask Taskspace, which will fill the whole screen. Now you'll see here that Photoshop's not made a very good job. Well, you can't see it actually, but I'll just move the transparency up. So here you can see that Photoshop's not really made a brilliant job of the hair. It's done well with everything else, but the hair, no, it's not done very well at all. Now if I just click on Show Edge, at the moment you'll see nothing. But if I now put a 2 pixel radius in, you'll see what it's actually doing. It's brought up a 2 pixel radius around the whole of the image. So around here, it's going to find the edge bang in the middle. It's going to be no problem. But the hair's not going to be as good because it's going to cut it all off after 2 pixels. So what can we do? Right, okay, well let's just deselect that for a second. And then in the toolbox inside the task space here, we've got this brush, which is the Refine Edge Brush tool. And if I click on that, what this is going to do is let me expand the radius area. So I'm not painting with paint. I'm just clicking to expand the radius area. And I'm going to try and do it in as few moves as I can, because the more you do it, the more it degrades the selection for you. So I'm just going to click and drag through these pieces quickly and through there, that, and you can see that it's doing a pretty good job of getting rid of those white areas. But there are a couple of things now that we can notice, that there is some edge pixels, there are some halo pixels here that we're going to be dealing with, but we're going to be dealing with them in a while. Now let's go back up to Show Edge again. And you'll see what's happened now. Here we've got variable edges basically. We're saying to Photoshop here, I just want you to search in 2 pixels for any contrast. But in this area and this area here, I want you to search in a wider area to find the hair. And that's all it's doing. Now we can look at the selection on different views. If we just click the view, we've got what's called onion skin here. And that's my preferred one at the moment, and what that lets you do is just basically take the transparency right down so you can then see if you've missed any bits. Oh, and it's just took them off, so I'll just put them back on again like that. Okay, And we can view it on different edges. We can view it as marching ants. We can view it as what they call a rubylith overlay. We can view it on black and on white. On black and white as basically what it looks like as a mask, and you can see that it doesn't look quite that bad when you look at it as a mask. And on layers, which shows you right through to the layer underneath. We'll stick with onion skin, and I'll just have the transparency right up at 100%. And again, every time I do that, I've just got to skip over these bits again. There we go. Now you can add some global refinements. Smoothing will just smooth the edge if you've got a pretty ratty edge. I don't think we have, so I'm not going to play with that. Feather, yeah, we'll add a little bit of feather, maybe half a pixel, something like that, just to give a bit of feather to these edges. Contrast, do you want to give your edges a little bit more structure and make them stronger? And then shift edge, if we move it, what it'll do is it'll move the selection in. And if we move it out, it'll move the selection out, so you'll get more of the white background. And all I want to do, I'll just leave that set to 0, I think, because this is not going to be that bad. And now we've got output settings. What I've got here is what's called Decontaminate Colors. Now this is where you can see that there's some white pixels that are being brought through here. And what that is, that's a result of your depth of field. Because anywhere where Photoshop can find contrast, it finds it easy to nail it and select it. If it's slightly out of focus, and these hairs as they go towards the back of a head, they're going to be slightly out of focus, and Photoshop's not really sure, am I supposed to select this or not? So it actually brings some of the background with it. And to correct that, we've now got Decontaminate Colors. And what this actually does is anywhere where there is some halo pixels, Photoshop will examine those areas. And if the halo pixels change by a lot, the tonal value compared to the actual hair itself, it replaces those halos with the colour of the hair. And if we just tick that, you can see, wow, that's a pretty good. So I'm amazed at that. And if you like, you can, if it's too much, you can always just drop it down a little bit with the amount slider. And then finally, we've got output to. Well, how do you want to output it? We've got several options. We can output it as a selection, as a layer mask, new layer with layer mask, new document, or a new document with a layer mask. My favourite one, really, because I might want to change this further by using the mask, is to output it as a new layer with a layer mask. And then I can just click OK. And there we go. That's not a bad selection, that. And you can see what Photoshop's done is it leaves the existing layer but turns off the visibility. And then it leaves the new layer with the mask. And so really I can keep that as a backup, but I don't really need it, so I can just throw that in the bin if I want. And here I've now got a pretty good selection backed onto that sky. Okay, to finish off, a question often asked is, will Select and Mask work on more complex or busy backgrounds? And the answer is yes, but. And there's always a but, isn't there? Photoshop's not a miracle worker. If the background is very busy or similar in tone, Photoshop will fail badly. In these circumstances, you'll have to work harder to get that initial selection as accurate as possible, using other selection tools as well. Now the time involved may be prohibitive, so initial image choice is key really. If you want to cut out a tree, for example, against a blue sky, chances are you're going to get an excellent result. Try and cut a tree out from a background of other trees and you may find frustration creeping in. So you may need to think about the purpose of the image that you're taking when you take it. Is it a background or is it going to be a cutout? Well, that's it for the Select and Mask workspace. Quick recap. You've got to have a tone selection tool active to access Select Subject and Select and Mask buttons on the tool options bar. You must create an initial selection with Select Subject. You then refine the selection with other selection tools if you need to. and then you enter Select and Mask. Select a suitable radius, normally only a couple of pixels is fine, and refine any hair or fur with the Refine Edge brush tool. Set any global adjustments that you feel are required, and then choose the appropriate output settings. Now I hope you found that useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment in the More area under the video. And please subscribe to my channel, LiveLink Training, and become part of my Photoshop and Lightroom learning community. Bye for now. I'll see you in the very next video.